Hey guys, welcome to the Hybrid Athlete channel. I'm Dr. Paul Rimmer, and today on our Sports Science Shorts section, I need to change that. We're going to talk about cardiac drift, and we're going to talk what it is, why it's important, and things that we need to think about in terms of our training. So, what is cardiac drift? Cardiac drift is the gradual, time-dependent drift in several cardiovascular responses, most notably a decreased stroke volume, so less blood being ejected from the heart, combined with an increased heart rate during prolonged steady state exercise. So why is this important? Well, when we think about terms like steady state, we often think that it's this kind of, this zone of training, zone of effort that we can continue forever and ever and ever. However, our steady state is still only applicable over a specific period of time. And this cardiac drift is evidence of this. So if we were to say we had a rider or a cyclist or a runner and we've got them on two separate rides in similar conditions, and we look at their heart rate over a 3-hour period and a 5-hour period, what we would find, even at the same power or pace or relative effort, over that time period, heart rate would gradually increase over time. So what this shows us is that this idea of steady state and being at certain thresholds when we've maybe tested performance over a shorter duration doesn't mean that we can then maintain those steady state, steady state periods over a longer duration than maybe we've trained or we've tested over as well. So there are several factors that can influence this cardiac drift as well. So things like heat, humidity, fluid and electrolyte balance, and a lot of the reasons we get this cardiac drift is potentially due to depletion of those things, and also sort of central regulation in the brain, which regulates heart rate, stroke volume, and things like that are exposed to these higher training volumes or these higher durations, of activity at these steady states. So this means that we cannot simply just extrapolate one distance time directly to another. And this seems to be especially true when looking at really long duration activities. So if we're talking about extrapolating a half marathon to a marathon, that's going to be a problem there, and then a marathon above as well, especially on different sort of terrains, different environments, different heat, different humidity, different fuel sources, with different amounts of electrolytes, different hydration and nutrition strategies. So this means that if we're going to take part in events, that we don't necessarily have to complete race distances, but what it does mean is that the volume of training that we're doing and on some of our training runs should at least get us to a position where we have the confidence to extrapolate upwards to that race distance. So typically speaking, as a general rule with my athletes, with my clients, regardless of distance, I want them to have completed a training run at around 2/3 to 75% of their race distance. So let me put that in context. At the moment, I'm training for a 100-miler, so 160 kilometers. My last training run will be around the 100 to 110 kilometer mark, okay? That might seem ridiculous for a training run, but unfortunately, with those kind of ultra endurance events, we have to expose our body to that kind of training stress. In order to, one, understand if we're, our physiological responses to that, and then use things like effort to adjust our pacing up and down. So one of the metrics that we can take as well as heart rate is to look at effort and always run to effort, particularly if we're going to new distances, new uncharted territories. It's important to not run off heart rate, it's important to run off effort, because that way, if our pace drops off, and then it also means that it's important not to simply chase pace, because if we simply chase pace, power, whatever it might be, we might end up then going over the dark side, losing performance to a significant level, which it then becomes really difficult to recover from. So that's it for today's Sports Science Shorts. That's what cardiac drift is. That's why using heart rate data is incredibly useful, but we also need to make sure that that is applicable to the durations, intensities, and efforts over the course of the types of events that we're trying to do. It also means in our training programs that we need to make sure at some point we replicate race conditions, both distance, duration, power, heat, humidity, fueling strategy, and all of that stuff. And it also means then that in terms of our training programming, particularly for ultra endurance events, if we are going to go to super long distances, we need to be very careful with our programming to make sure if we are going to build up to those 100, 120 kilometer training runs, for example, that we then have adequate recovery to either taper for a race or to have enough time to recover between other training sessions that we're doing. So if this video has been useful, please give it a like and a subscribe. I'll be back with you very soon. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, you wonderful humans. Peace.